God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with tumult. Our bishop here in New England, Bishop Devidar, often quotes this psalm, I've noticed. And it's one of my favorites, too. It has been a wild week for our denomination, the United Methodist Church. The special general session of it concluded in St. Louis this past Tuesday night. And as I've said in my news and notes, I have to admit I was surprised. I was surprised by the vote that was taken there. I really thought the one church plan would prevail. It had been endorsed by the bishops who represent congregations all around this world of ours. But instead, 822 delegates from around the world voted for an amended version of the traditional plan. It was a remarkably close vote, 53.2% to 46.8%. Personally, I would never make any plans after a vote that close if I were in charge. Our structures here are designed to make sure that we never do anything on such a close vote in a local church. So I have to remind myself that the United Methodist Church is a global church. We are different from other denominations around us here in New England in that way, and even in this country. Many of the delegates came from faraway places, places that have very different cultures than ours, places where the practice of homosexuality is considered a criminal activity. So they come from a very different setting. I understand that, and yet I am still grieving for so many of my friends and my brothers and sisters who are part of the LGBTQIA+ community. This is really a painful, and from my perspective, a horrible action. I don't want anybody who goes to church with me to feel excluded or condemned, because the Jesus I know is inclusive and welcomes all people. And however we were created when we were born, however we are, we were made by God. Who am I to turn anyone away? As I said, here at St. John's, we remain a reconciling congregation that does not change. We affirm God's redeeming love for all people, and we welcome all people to full inclusion in the ministries of this church. So we remain a reconciling congregation. I also want to remind us all that we have time. We have time to figure things out. No need to panic. We have time, even now, though, to start living. Time to do the ministries of love and compassion that we have been doing, and we can continue to do those things. And as a congregation, we will have time to gather together, to help each other through this tumultuous time. I want to start today. Between our two services, there's not much time, but anybody who wants to, I invite you to come forward to the front of our church, to gather together with others, to be together physically, to talk if you want, to pray if you want, simply to stand together if you want. And then after a brief time there, I invite you all to continue over to Hartford Hall for more conversation reaching out to each other. Ash Wednesday is coming this Wednesday. It seems oddly appropriate. That will be another time for us to gather together, to grieve the pain that is around us and that we may be experiencing ourselves, but to come together into this sanctuary, this safe place, into God's house, and to help each other through. Our delegates from New England did a beautiful job in St. Louis, and they are even now pulling together more information for us so that we will have better and better information to guide us in the coming days and weeks. According to my calculations, we have until April 26th, maybe a little time after that. We need to sit tight until the end of April, because that is when the Judicial Council of our church, this is a group that oversees what happens at general conferences and makes sure that what is decided there really does fit with our Methodist Constitution. So nothing is certain until this body rules about what was voted on at General Conference. They won't meet till April 23rd through 25th, so we'll wait to hear what they have to say after they meet. No matter what, none of these changes will take effect until January 1st, 2020. We're just barely into March. We have time, so we're not going to panic. The dust will settle. I'm confident that the way will become clear. If we need to branch off, we'll branch off. Plenty of people have done it before. Doesn't worry me. God is our strength. God was faithful, as Paul said, to the Corinthians. God was faithful even before them to the Israelites. Paul said, now is the acceptable time. Now is the time of salvation. Salvation is available to us. Through Christ, we are freed up to act in new ways, empowered by God's love, to show God's love in so many different ways. We've been living right along, and we can continue to keep living right now, keeping our eyes open and acting when the time comes. One of my favorite preachers of all times is Fred Craddock. I got to hear him preach 2 times and was struck by the power of his storytelling. And so today I want to share with you a story from Fred, which seems appropriate with what's happened in St. Louis, appropriate what's happened to our dear friends, the Humphreys. Let me tell you this story. Fred Craddock wrote, I was invited in mid-October to the University of Winnipeg in Canada to give 2 lectures, one Friday night and one Saturday morning. I went. I gave the one on Friday night. As we left the lecture hall, it was beginning to spit a little snow. I was surprised, and my host was surprised because he had written earlier, it's too early for the cold weather, but you might bring a little windbreaker, a little light jacket. The next morning, when I got up, 2 or 3 feet of snow pressed against my door. The phone rang, and my host said, we're all surprised by this. In fact, I can't come and get you to any breakfast. And the lecture's been canceled this morning, and the airport is closed. But if you can make your way down the block and around the corner, there's a little depot, a bus depot, and it has a cafe. I'm so sorry. I said, I'll get around. I put on that little light jacket. It was nothing. I got my little cap and I put it on. It didn't even help me inside the room. I went into the bathroom and I unrolled long sheets of toilet paper and made a nest in the cap so it would protect my head against that icy wind. I went outside, shivering. The wind was cold and the snow was deep. I slid and bumped and finally made it around the corner into the bus station. Every stranded traveler in Western Canada was there. strangers to each other and to me, pressing and pushing and loud. I finally found a place to sit. And after a lengthy time, a man in a greasy apron came over to me and said, "What do you have?" I said, "May I see a menu?" He said, "What do you want a menu for?" "We have soup." I said, "What kinds of soup do you have?" And he said, "Soup. You want some soup?" I said, "That was what I was going to order. Soup." He brought the soup, and I put the spoon to it. Yuck! It was the awfulest. It was kind of gray looking. It was so bad, I couldn't eat it. But I sat there and I put my hands around it. It was warm. And so I sat there with my head down, my head wrapped in toilet paper, bemoaning and beweeping my outcast state with the horrible soup. But it was warm, so I clutched it and stayed bent over my stove soup. The door opened again. The wind was icy and someone yelled, "Close the door!" In came this woman clutching her little coat. She found a place not far from me. The greasy apron came over to her. "What do you want?" She said, "Glass of water." He brought a glass of water, took out his tablet and said, "Now, what do you have?" She said, "Just the water." He said, "You have to order, lady." "Well, I just want a glass of water." "Look, I have customers that pay. What do you think this is? A church or something? Now, what do you want?" She said, "Just a glass of water and to get warm." "Look, there are people that are paying here, and if you're not going to order, you got to leave." And he got real loud about it. So she got up to leave, and almost as if rehearsed, everybody in the little cafe stood up and started toward the door. I got up and said, I'm voting for something here. I don't know what it is." And the man in the greasy apron said, all right, she can stay." Everybody sat down, and he brought her a bowl of soup. I said to the person sitting next to me, "Who is she?" He said, "I never saw her before." The place grew quiet, but I heard the sipping of that awful soup. I said, "I'm going to try that again." I put my spoon to the soup. You know, it was not bad soup. Everybody was eating this soup. I started eating the soup, and it was pretty good soup. I have no idea what kind of soup it was. I don't know what was in it. But I do recall when I was eating it, it tasted a little bit like bread and wine. Just a little like bread and wine. To you I say, as your pastor, come in. Come in out of the cold. Come in out of the storm that's raging outside. You are safe here in this sanctuary. You are safe here in God's house. And not only that, you are welcome to join us for bread and wine. Around this table, everyone is welcome to come. And this meal has the ability to nourish our souls, our spirits, our minds, our hearts, our hands. It's just a little bit of bread, just a little bit of that special grape juice from our garden. But through Christ, it nourishes us, enables us to continue and to start living right now. Praise be to God. Amen.